How's it going, guys? Doing another tactic video today, since as you guys seem to be liking them so much. This time we're going to be talking about the Dory, the Dwarfs, whatever you want to call them, stunties. An army which is heavily underrated in my opinion. So let me talk you through my build, why I came up with this build, my ideas behind this build, and how you can tailor it to what you're playing against. The Dwarfs sort of tick all boxes for me in the form of being a heavy... They're like a Swiss Army knife. They bring a lot to the table, can deal with all sorts of threats. The only thing that you never have to worry about is cavalry, which in my opinion makes them a really good army for beginners. Because you don't have to worry too much about watching your cavalry and making sure they're not getting caught or being run down, because we never got boar riders. A lot of the traditional fantasy dwarfs. But we got things that are a lot cooler, being Warhammer dwarfs. So, straight up with this build, double cannons. Dead easy. Can be stuck in every single Dwarven list. You can swap them out for organ guns if you want, or grudge throwers. Not a massive fan of the flame cannons, but I can see their use if you're playing it against their regenerative faction that's got a lot of regeneration units and stuff like that. But there probably is other units that would proc that easier for you. So straight away, my two cannons. Popping shots into those chosen. Free real estate. Now, when I take artillery, I always take squads of Slayers. Slayers are an amazing unit for covering your artillery. They're fast, even though they're, as it says in the brackets, fast for a dwarf. And they are a generalist, good sweeper unit. A lot of units that want to either hide in your vanguard or fly over the top or try and sneak around and get your cannons isn't going to be too happy to run into a squad of Slayers. And then I take two squads of blasting charges just because it's useful if the enemies use it just to delete squads that you don't really feel like fighting. 3 squads of dwarf warriors. Not a massively wide army, this army, because it was quite an expensive army. I then buffer these 3 squads of dwarf warriors with 2 squads of longbeards, because you get the leadership encouragement bonus, and longbeards just absolute nightmare to get rid of. I bought Ungrim Iron Fist because I quite like him to try and fight Be'lakor and Malekith. We've got the Peak Gate Guard Hammerers. Now these are a bit of a tech piece. Don't bring these all the time, they are quite expensive. But they're armour sundering and they deal magical attacks instead of physical, which will help when trying to cut through the 90 armour of Malekith. You know, Be'lakor, who has a lot of physical resistance. So it does help chop through the things like these physical resistance on top of his armour and his melee defence. So, in my opinion, I bring them with a something big for them to beat on. And then the other thing I brought, which you don't normally bring, but I knew there was probably going to be a Be'lakor because Demons of Chaos players just love using him. Understandably, he is an absolute unit if left to do his own devices. Some Iron Drakes with Trollhammer torpedoes. I brought these purposely for trying to slay big monsters. That could be Be'lakor, could be Malekith, and I think there's the Knights of the Brazen Throne here as well, which would be ideal targets for as well. But as you can see, we're happy to take cannon shots at the start right into the chosen halberds. They're an expensive unit and we've already took 20 men out. You know, you can see we're doing quite a lot of damage to them. The cannon's already making, you know, money. Obviously we don't see these shades at this point. We didn't know there was shades hiding because they do have stalk. We send the Iron Drakes over here mainly because they seem to want to send both Be'lakor and Malekith at the Skaven, so I'm all for helping my ally. The cannons are still taking happy shots into the chosen, you know, half their squad's gone. We send the blasting charges up, so I'd want to throw out a few blasting charges in the face of these Chaos Warriors. You know, not amazing damage, but takes a few of them out, does a little bit of damage. And then now seeing there's shades, we decide to move up. The chosen are taking an absolute battering still. As you can see, we are trying to deal with the two big scary lords. Don't really want them to be causing many more issues. The cannons at this point, I changed their target because there's not much left of that squad for them to hammer, even though it's just sent those two bodies absolutely flying. And now we start pushing up. We push up our units to get rid of the shades and that on this side, and then we send the rest of our army. Because we know there's probably not much chance of anything coming around the back to get us, we send up the Slayers because I need to help my Skaven ally. The thing I see quite often in multiplayer is someone playing the Dwarfs or Empire of a box build will just let their ally die because they want to fight on their terms. You've got to adapt in the fights. You know, you don't want to leave your ally out to just fight all these forces by himself, even though he's doing a cracking job. But I now decide I will help. We run the Slayers instead of the Chaos Warriors. We've got the Chaos Chosen Warriors here. I mean, you can look at those Chosen Halberds. They're down to 15 models. I'm pretty sure we're moving the cannons now. Yep, they're doing a little bit of damage to the shades, but we'll move them again in a second to bigger prey. Cannons are great at taking out big scary monsters, so that's really what you want to use them for. As you can see, we are pushing the Chaos Warriors out, dealing with them. We've got the shades out of the fray. They're dealing with some Longbeards and some Dwarf Warriors, which I'm happy for them to start the fun of dealing with. We've got some Longbeards here dealing with some more Chaos Warriors. And then we're just breaking squads away. You know, the Slayers are winning combat. My cannons are going into Be'lakor, taking happy shot. These cannons are moving up, ready to take shots into Be'lakor. You know, as you can see, that shot went wide, but we'll accept it still. What are these cannons going into? What we're going into the Knights of the Brazen Throne now. The cannons are another great pick for these ones. Well, these ones are just keeping their mark on Be'lakor. Now, you might go, oh, it might be a waste because Be'lakor can dodge all the shots. But he can't control his whole army and Be'lakor at the same time. There's going to be times where his Be'lakor macro cancels. And I like to call it applying pressure. Because now Be'lakor can never stay in one spot. He's constantly going to have to move Be'lakor, which is adding more for him to do. While my cannons, I don't have to do anything to them. You know, I've told them to shoot Be'lakor. They'll sit there doing it until all their ammunition's gone or until they're stopped. And I've still got my Trihammer torpedoes, my Slayers around. They're just... I did have them shooting Malekith. Malekith seems to have run off. But now we decide that it's time for Be'lakor to die. We've had enough, so we're going to shoot him in the face with cannons. Move these Slayers back. It's obvious he's going to try and dive down to shoot a squad of cannons to get rid of one. But the Slayers are anti-large. It's going to be quite annoying. That clocks Be'lakor straight in the face. He's not having a good time. We do have Quarrelers here. He drops a nice pit of shades, which does a fair amount of damage, but he's not having a good day. He's about to die. And it does not feel good when your Be'lakor, who costs 4,300 or whatever it is, only makes 1,700 value. The Slayers get in and start breaking him down. We've got the demonic instability, and he is out of there. His allies bringing Malekith over, thinking he's going to do much more, but he gets a Trollhammer torpedo to the side, and he's gone. And that's the victory. So with Dwarfs, it's more about using your infantry to their best and picking apart the enemy. You know, you can see the Peak Hammer Guard didn't really do it. I mean, they've got a lot of HP left, 150 kills. They were chopping through those spearmen quite well. But their main purpose would have been to take out the more armoured units. But I didn't really have to use them for that. You know, the Slayers did well sweeping around. Trollhammer torpedoes, for not using anywhere near all their ammunition, got a fair amount of damage dealt. The cannons, you know, paid for themselves. The Longbeards I sent on a Wild Goose Chase, but that one did hold the Chaos Warriors. And you see the Quarrelers, the Rangers, they're not expensive. They got the money's worth. The Dwarf Warriors did their bit. And so did the Mourners. With a lot more to give from the Dwarves, to be fair. This is a race that you can really push to their limits. They've got excellent leadership. Really a stalwart race as the Dwarves are. Let's have a look how Ungrim did. 410 value, but I suppose there was nothing really big for him to duel. So he did just end up having to fight spears, which he's never too happy about. But I hope this gives you a little bit of insight how to play the Dwarfs. There will be more videos of Dwarfs coming up, different builds, different tactics, stuff like this. but I'm hoping this gave you a little bit of an insight and a little bit of tactical overview. Thank you for watching, guys. It's been Oddly Unorthodox. If you've got requests, ideas, what you want next, if you want it ahead of other factions, leave comments and then like and subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.